Okay, welcome to this session. And in this session, let us explore the swing and a few of its important components. So in the previous session and the previous video, if you observe, so I have been discussed about the basics of swings as well as I have just shown you how to implement a simple swing application using two ways, using both the ways. So swing as a desktop application or a swing as an applet. So in this video, when I try to explore swing more about the concepts and the important concepts, what are the components, what I can bring in. So I'll be using the second method, the second way of method of implementing a swing, that is using applets. So if you want to have a good information about how the swing applet is going to behave or how to develop a swing applet, so please check out the previous session video and just come back to this video to go through some of the important components of an Java swing. And so now let's start. And now this is what exactly I'm going to cover in this video. So the few of the important components which we usually use in a swing. And this is not limited only for this. There are many more components, but in this video I'll be just showing you this important basic components of a swing which you can make use to have any basic GUI application. And starting from the label and image icon, the text field, the swing buttons, because there are different types of buttons in the swing. We'll discuss about the swing buttons too, and the tabbed pane, the scroll pane, the list, combo box, and the JTable. So we are going to discuss these few components and important components of a swing. And so now let us first look into the label and image icon. So now whenever you're going to look into any of your GUI, you need to put some sort of message. You need to put some sort of information. Something like if it is a C program, I would have been set to have a value of n. I would have been set, so printf, enter the value of n. Now this becomes a text for me. This becomes the information. This becomes a message for me. And that is what exactly I should do when I'm going to have a GUI application. I need to put some information. I need to put some text in form of a message. That is what the JLabel is going to do. And as this is a GUI, more than being a textual window, it is a graphical window. Hence, the information what you want to put, I can put in form of an image. Something like, if I want to say this is a Java program, so I'm saying it's a Java program, let me put the icon of a Java, the icon of an flag, the icon of any message, what I can put it on the window. Hence, that message what I want to display, either I can put in a textual form using JLabel, or I can put it in a form of graphics or an image using the image icon. That is what this is going to do. And in this, I'll be just showing you how to make use of both the components, how to declare this, and how we are going to implement this. Hence, and this is a passive component. Remember, this is going to be a passive component. When I say passive component, when you click on the label or when you roll over the label, nothing is going to change because it is just information what I am putting it. And even on the image icon, even if I'm going to have a scroll over that or a click of a mouse or any sort of input what I am trying to give through this image, it is unchanged and nothing is going to happen. That is what we say as a passive component. And so we will see how exactly this is going to be implemented. Hence, to implement this, I have got this set of constructors under the class JLabel. And so now using this constructor, I can just put an image as an information using the constructor by passing the object of icon, which is going to be the object of the class icon. Or if I want to put a textual message, I am going to use the constructor with the parameter string str. And now if I want to put both the textual information as well as an image, I'm going to use the third type of constructor, and I'm going to say align. That is how exactly the icon should be aligned along with the text what I'm going to put. Hence, this is the alignment between these two what I'm going to use. And this is what the image icon is going to be the object of the class image icon, which is going to implement the icon and encapsulates the message or encapsulates the image. So this particular class is going to take this as an input, and it's going to put in its or it's going to hold inside its data member. That is what we call this as encapsulates the image, whatever you're going to put. And so now whenever you want to bring in this image into this JLabel constructor, I need to use the constructor of the class image icon by giving the file name of the string. If it's an image, it should have a file name and it should have a path. You need to give the complete path if it's in any other folder other than the working directory. And if the file or the image is in the working directory itself, then you can just give the file name, and this constructor is going to fetch that image and it's going to display it as a GUI component. That is what the second parameter is going to do. And the third parameter, it is going to be the alignment. Either you can align this image with the text or the message what I am putting, either left to it or the right, the center, the leading or the trailing. So the few constants what you can use as the third parameter. And so now we'll see how exactly this is going to be implemented now. And now, as I told you, the swing up implementation of this components, whatever I'm going to put it in this video as a discussion, this is going to be the second way of implementing a swing using the applets. That is what exactly I'm doing here. So you need to import some header files, that is the swing header file and the AWT header file. And I'm just going to have the comment, so which is going to help me to execute this applet using any of a browser which can read a HTML file. And I'm just going to have my main class, which is going to, I call this as my swing app, and now I need to extend the JApplet as I discussed in the previous session, and the init method. So in this init method, I'm just going to have the runnable interface and I'm going to call the run method. And inside this run method, I'm going to have my GUI function. This is the user defined function which we are going to use to display whatever the content I want on the GUI application window. Hence, now this is the main function. If you observe whatever the program hereafter I'm going to put, you can see the same import files, the same import classes. So I may add up to this. So if it is required, and this remains same, and even the class remains same, the init. So this way of creating the thread as an event driven thread, all this is going to be similar. Nothing is going to change. And this is similar. The only thing is the function what I am building, my GUI. This is where the my GUI is going to help me to create the component what I require. And so mainly concentrate hereafter. This remains same. The only thing is what I extend and what I implement. That's the one thing which you need to observe how it's going to change. And a few imports what I'm going to make. And the main thing is about this user defined function. Whatever the component you have decided to put it on the graphical window, that is what I'm going to put in this my GUI. And if you observe, this is invoke and wait. This means now this thread will be executed only after the execution of this complete function. That is only when I have all this information, the set of components, what I want to display on the graphical window. Only after that I'll be using this to put it on the graphical user interface. That is what I'm calling the function name, what I am defining as my GUI. And so now using this my GUI, now I'm going to create an object of the class image icon using the constructor of the class image icon by passing the file name, because right now this file or this image is in the current working directory itself. And this is a PNG format file. You can make use of JPG or you can make use of any of the format of the image what you're going to use. But right now I'm using PNG, and so I'm giving the file name or the image name as india.png, and now this will be having the reference in the image icon. And now I'm going to create the object of the class JLabel by calling the constructor JLabel, which takes three parameters as I've explained in the previous slide. The first parameter is the text what I want to display, and the image what I want to display, which I have been already read, and the alignment. It's going to be the center. And once I have been created the object of the image, I'm using this to create the object of a label. And once the object or the component of the label is created and ready, now I need to add this to my graphical window by calling add and image label. Hence when I execute this is the output what I'm going to get. It's an applet, and this is the status of a applet. So the default status is applet started. And now this is the image icon what I'm going to put, and this is the text what I want to display as our flag. This is how we are going to make use of the label as well as the image icon what I want. If you want only the text, then just pass only the first parameter. If you want only the image, then pass only the second parameter as the first parameter. This is going to work for you. This is how we are going to make use of the JLabel as well as the icon. And now, whenever if you want to know, if you want to get the reference of the current image what you have been displayed, I can make use of the function get icon. This will get you the current reference of the image what right now you have been displayed on the image. And the string get text, that is, now whatever the text you have been displayed, if you want to get the text, if you want to know what text you have been displayed, you can use get text. Or if you want to set a new icon, you can call this. If you want to change the text from our flag to Indian flag or India flag, you can use the set text and pass the parameter. And at any point of time you can get back the reference of the image or a text, and you can set a new image or you can set a new text by calling any of this function. This is what you should know about the JLabel and the image icon. So next we will see the JText field, that is the portion or the component where I can type some text, something like a password, something like a username where I can type in, and that is where we call this as the text field. So now how exactly this is going to work? Now we are going to have a text field which is editable, and this is a one line of a text. It is just one line of a text what I can put, something like I'm going to have just only one row. I'm going to have first text field, the second text field, the third text field, and so on. And this text field class, whatever I'm going to use right now for the implementation, now this is going to inherit from the class JText component class, because when I say text field, it is going to be one line text or the complete text area what I can put, or the image what I can upload, or the file what I can browse. All this is going to be part of the text component class, which is a generalized class. But right now I am discussing about a one line of text field, and now I am going to have a specific class derived from the JText component class. And now this is going to use the interface of the document, because this is where whatever I'm going to type, this will be stored somewhere in the buffer and should be fetched to my program during implementation. And that is where we talk about the document interface. Even this is going to make use of document interface if it requires. And that is where we are going to have the JText field, and the constructors what I'm going to use for this are, I'm just going to say JText field and I'm going to say int calls. So this is a just short form of columns, because as is always a one row, so hence I need not mention how many rows I'm going to put. It's always one row, but the column is going to be the number of characters what you want to have for the text field. There is no what is the width of this text field is going to be. It depends upon how many columns you want to give, or you're going to pass it as a parameter. So right now, if I want 10 characters length in the text field, just pass this parameter as 10. And so now by default, something like when I execute this particular program, you can see there is a message called as text field 1. This is a default message. This is a default text or a string. If you want to put something like this, I'm going to use string str, whatever the default message I want to display, and the number of columns or number of characters or the width of the text field what I want to use. And so I can just pass only the default string, and when I pass only the default string without number of columns, then whatever the number of characters you put in this message, that will be the length of your text field. That is what this 3 parameters is going to do. The number of columns or characters, as I told you, the string to be initially presented by default, and this is how we are going to make use of this constructor. And now the first type of components at this beginning of session, what I discussed about, the label and the image icon. I told you it's all passive components. That is, when you click on that, nothing is triggered and there is zero response or no response or no request has been generated. But now this text fields or somewhere the user try to enter something or some input. That is where we are going to call this text field is going to generate events in response to the user interaction. When a user clicks on the text field to type the character, when the user is typing the character, when the user types the first character, for all these cases, the events will be generated in response. Fine. Hence, action event is triggered when user presses enter. So whenever you're going to keep on typing the text, so intermediate responses will be generated, but the action event is triggered only when the user presses enter, indicating end of the input. Fine. And in between the intermediate responses, whatever we call this as caret event. That is the character what I'm going to type each time the cursor changes its position. That is, now for example, look at this. I'm just going to type a character, the cursor will be keep on moving or it will change its position. That is where whenever the cursor changes the position, the caret event is triggered. Hence, whenever a caret event is triggered, I'll be reading character by character. And whenever you want to make use of this text field, so now this constructor and this class are saved in the Java swing.event, and this should be imported because I need to handle the events. I need to handle the action event, I need to handle the caret event. And now whatever the text has been typed here or typing over here, if you want to get the text and display something like this, I need to make use of the method get text, so which is going to help me to read exactly what you have been typing out. And so just look at the implementation now. So as I told you, I'll be not concentrating much on this. Is similar, the same what I am doing in the previous program or the previous session video, whatever I am going to have. My main concentration will be on my GUI. Hence, I'll just go directly to this function my GUI. So in this my GUI function, you can see I'm just going to set the layout as new flow layout. If you set the layout as flow layout, you can put the component wherever you want. You can make sure the component is positioned where exactly you want, and you can get some responses from your graphical window also. And the very first job is set the layout to be the flow layout. And I'm going to create the object for the class JTextField, and I'm going to call the constructor by 15. That is, the columns are 15. Hence, the width what I'm going to have the maximum number of characters. So now what you can enter in the text field is 15. And once the text field is created, the component is created, and I'm going to add the component to my graphic window. So once the graphic window is used to add this component, then my next job is I need to handle the event. Fine. So remember this, I need to handle the event. And to handle the event, I'm just going to use the component, the text field component what I have been just added. I'm going to add the action listener for this. I'm going to use the action listener and add an action listener by creating the object of the action listener. And when I call this action listener, so this constructor is going to by default call the action performed. That is what action has been performed. Whenever some sort of action has been performed, I am going to show at the status. So in your applet, by default the status will be applet started. But now I want to use that status to print whatever the text has been typed. Hence I am going to use jtf.getText. This is going to get me the text and helps me to put it on the graphical window immediately. Hence I am going to add the component. I am going to add the action listener for the component to know what input I am getting and to know what I'm going to exactly print it on the graphical window. And so now when I execute this, I'm just going to have this as the window, and I'm just going to say whatever the character I'm just keep on typing. Now this will be displayed on the status itself. This is going to show at the status itself using the get window. This is how we are going to make use of the text field. And now we'll just move on to the swing buttons, and just carefully observe in the swing buttons. This is what an important concept is going to be out of such components, because there are different types of buttons what I can make use of. I'm going to have the 4 types of buttons. Whatever I'm going to talk about is swing. That is, I'm going to have J button when I talk about the swing buttons, or it can be the toggle buttons, the checkbox, and the radio button. You can just see the example of those buttons I have been put over here. Now these are the buttons what I can use. When I click on this button, some action is performed. And when I say toggle button, when I click on the toggle button, it can be pressed or it can be released. When I press this button, it is pressed right now, it's in the on state. When I again click on this, it's going to be in the off state. Hence, when I click on this button, it is just a click. It will press and immediately released. But this is not in this kind. In this kind of buttons, when I press the button, it will stay on or pressed, and only when I click for a second time, it will be released. And that is what we call this as a toggle button. And the checkboxes, you're already aware, I can make multiple choices over here. And when I say the radio button, again you have got multiple options, but you can choose any one out of this. And that is where I'm going to use 4 types of buttons in the swing, or when you're implementing the swing. Now all these buttons, whatever I'm going to use, directly or indirectly is the subclass of the abstract button, which is in turn the subclass of the J component. And now, so now this abstract button is going to have this set of constructors or the methods what I am going to use. Fine, I am just going to have the set disabled icon. I am just going to have the whatever the icon I am going to have. I can disable the icon, or I can enable the icon, or I can enable the button. And now I am going to set the pressed icon. That is, when I press a icon, how this icon should be viewed. That is what I am going to use the image or icon for this. So when selected, when I am going to select it, what icon I am going to use. When I roll over, when I am going to move the mouse, so whether the button should change its appearance or not. That is what the set rollover icon is going to do. Hence, using this, something like I'm just going to have button, when I roll over my mouse, it is going to change its appearance. That is what the rollover is. So when I say disabled, now all this are disabled buttons until I don't activate this. And pressed, now you can see this is the pressed icon what I'm using. Selected icon, this is what the selected icon using, and even this selected icon. When I say rollover, whether the button appearance should change when I roll over the mouse. That is what the different set of methods I can use from the class abstract button. So now with this buttons, whatever I'm going to use, so now all this button is going to use the interface from the button model. It's going to use the interface as the button model. And now we'll see one by one all these 4 buttons, how exactly this should be used. Now when I'm going to say J button, now J button is going to have this set of constructor, and the first constructor is going to be J button icon and the icon. I'm just going to pass a parameter as icon, how the button should be visualized, or what is the message I'm going to put on the button, or what is the image and the string what I'm going to put it on the button. I can use any of this constructor to when I'm going to create a button. And so again, this is a push button. This is a push button. So which is going to generate an action event upon clicking on the button. Hence we say get action command. I'm just going to get some action commands. Fine. So what exactly I should do? And I can get what is the action command I should fetch or I need to use when I press a button. And I'm just going to get the text what exactly I have been used for the button what I have been created. And even I can set the text whenever I want. I can change this text whenever I want using the method set text, as I have been just told you in the first component when I was discussing about the J label. And so we'll see how exactly this should be implemented now. And now when I'm implementing this, as I told you, my main concentration will be on only my GUI, because this is going to remain intact and almost same. And so now just observe this my GUI. So I'm setting the flow layout, the first point, and I'm creating an icon, the image icon, the way I did while creating JLabel and image icon. And I'm going to create a button now. Now create an object for the class JButton, and right now the button what I'm creating is using the image by passing the image icon as an object. And for this button, I'm going to set the action button as icon button. And I'm going to add an action listener. Whatever the current action listener is going to be, I'm going to set that itself as an action listener. And I'm going to add up this button. And once this is done, I'm just going to create second button now. The second button is going to be a labeled button or a text button, not an icon button. Hence, I'm just going to use the constructor JButton. Instead of passing an image, I'm passing a text as India. And this is second button as JB2.set action command as text button. And I'm going to add the current action listener and add this component. Hence, I've added a button with the image. I've been added the button with the text. And along with this, I'm going to add a label. And I'm going to add the label as choose a button. And even add this component. Hence, I'm adding 3 components to my graphical window right now. The 2 buttons and a message. And now, once this is done, I need to define the action performed. Where this action performed event is going to be. So whenever a button is pressed, I'm just going to print the message as I selected. What did I selected? I'm going to get the action command. Now here I have been set the action command. The action command is icon button and the text button. And now I'm trying to get that action button. And the action button is when I click on the first button, the actions command is set to icon button, and this icon button will be fetched here and I'll display this as I selected icon button. Or if I click on this button, I'll be having the message as I selected text button. And so now this is the output what I'm going to get upon execution. I'm just going to have the 2 buttons, the first button with the image India.jpg and the second button with the text India and the label choose a button. And now when I click on this icon, I'm just going to print the message as I selected and the action command is icon button. Hence I'm going to print this message. And when I click on this button, I'm going to again call the action command, but right now the action command has been set to the text button. So I'm going to print the message as I selected text button. Fine. So now hence I'm just going to have this as J button, and now we will see the J toggle button. So now how exactly the J toggle button is going to work with this. But before that, now the J checkbox and the J radio button is a subclass of the toggle button. Even these are the toggle buttons. So the type of a toggle buttons. Hence we say so the subclass of the J toggle button. Rather than directly we put this under the abstract button, indirectly we are putting this as an abstract button subclasses, but these 2 are direct subclasses of the J toggle button. We'll see what is JToggle button now. Then we will explore the other two types of toggle buttons. Now, when we are going to have toggle button, this is the variation of a push button what we have just discussed, which is going to toggle between the two states, on or off, the push or the release. Hence, we are going to have these two states always for the button at any point of time. And if I want to create such component, I am going to use the JToggle button with the string as str. That is the name what I want to put. Or even if you want, you can put an image for this. Okay, even if you want, you can put an image for this. And I'm going to have boolean. And whenever there's going to be a change in the state from on to off or off to on or from push to release or release to push, I'm going to get this method is going to return me a boolean, either true or false, whenever the state is going to be changed. And I can get the item what exactly I have been clicked or what button I have been clicked. And is it selected? That is, if it is going to be in the push state, it is going to be is selected. If it's a radio button, it is going to work. If it's a checkbox, still this is going to work efficiently. Hence, we are going to have boolean is selected or not. And this is how we are going to make use of few methods whenever I want the toggle button. Yes, now just concentrate on my GUI now. In this my GUI function, I am going to have set layout. And the new layout, whatever I'm going to have, is going to be the flow layout. And I'm going to create a label as I am off. That is what you are going to see this as output. And then I'm creating a toggle button. And for the class as an object, JTBN. And I'm going to call the constructor by passing the text as on or off. And I'm going to add an item listener for this. I'm going to add an item listener. And so to perform the action, I should know what actually item has been selected. Hence, I need to go item by item, not just one single button now. Hence, I'm going to make use of add item listener. And for this constructor, I'm going to create the object of the class item listener. So which I'm going to make use of item state changed event. So through this item state changed event, through which I'm going to pass the event, and now this event is going to tell me what exactly event has been created. And the button what I have been created now, I'm just going to check it out. Is it selected or not? If it is selected, then I'm going to set the text as I am on. If it is not selected, well, then this function returns false. I'm going to print the message as I am off. And this is what the event listener or the item listener I'm going to use whenever I want to handle the toggle button. And I'm going to add the toggle button and I'm going to add the label to the window. And so now right now by default it's going to be I am off state, the default message and the default state. And now when I'm going to click on the button, I'm just going to have the state will be changed to I am on. I'm going to set that text and there is a change in the state as this function is called, and this method is going to return me true because as it is selected and the message has been set to I am on. Again, if I'm going to click on the button, in that case I'm just going to have the message as I am off, or this can be displayed as I am off again. Now this message should have been changed to I am off again. This is what I'm going to get the output whenever I'm going to use the toggle button. Now this is how we're going to make use of toggle button. Now with this, now just check out the J checkbox. And now when I want to make use of a checkbox, which is a variation of a toggle button, so something like I want to display the output like this, I need to have this 5 checkboxes, and upon selecting any of these checkboxes, I should keep on changing the message. Something like select your stream is the default message, and as and when I am going to click on these checkboxes, I should be able to display what exact message I am going to print it over here. And that is what I'm going to create a checkbox with the string. This is the checkbox what I'm creating, and this is the string what I'm passing for the first checkbox. And to know what text have been set here, I can make use of the method or string getBox. Now just concentrate on the my GUI function. Now I want 5 checkboxes, and these are the 5 checkboxes what I'm creating. And so I'm creating new J checkbox, checkbox, and 5 checkboxes. And the message what I am passing is CSE, ECE, ISE, CE, and EME. And whatever the current item listener I am going to have, I am going to add all those item listener for this all the checkboxes, and I'll be adding each checkboxes to my graphical window. Along with this, to print a message, I am going to add up the label. This is what the GUI component what I'm going to have. Now for this add item listener, I need to have the item state change, the same exactly what I was doing in the toggle button. And so I'm going to create, I'm just going to have the J checkbox, that is CB reference. I'm just going to say get item. I'm going to get any one of this item. Whenever I'm going to create, whenever there's a change in the state, I should know which item has been changed the state. And so I'm saying get item. And now whatever the item I'm going to get, I'm going to store that reference in this object. Using this reference, if I have been clicked in this button, this is going to give me the reference of this button. If I click over here, this is going to give me the reference of the 5th button. And so I'm going to check what is the 5th button status is. Is it selected? If it is true, I'm going to print the text of this button. That is, ME is your stream, or CE is your stream. That is what I'm going to say, get text. And if this is false, I'm going to print the message as select your stream again. That is what I'm going to make this program to work with. And so now when I click on this button, I'm going to get the output as CSE is your stream. That is what I'm going to get the output as. And if I'm going to change my choice, or if I am going to deselect this, I'm going to get the message as select your stream again. Now this is how the checkbox is going to work. Now we'll just see the radio button. So when I'm going to have radio button, it's a mutually exclusive button, because if you say checkboxes, you can select multiple checkboxes at a time. You can select all the checkboxes if you want, but that's not the case in the radio button. If I select CSE, so this ISE will be deselected if I have selected. And right now if I select ISE and later if I select CSE, this will be deselected and this will be selected. Now this is what mutually exclusive button we call. At any point of time, any one radio button will be selected, not all. And that is what I am going to create the radio button using the constructor and the string, the name what I want, and must be configured into a group. If it's a checkbox, you need not worry about this. But if it's a radio button, you need to have a concentration on this. You need to always group the radio buttons. That is, in each group, you can select one radio button. If you have 10 radio buttons, you can make 5 and 5 as a group. And each group, I can make only one selection. That is what you need to always configure your radio button to be in a group. So for that, I am going to use the constructor button group. And whatever the buttons I am going to create, I am going to add the button to the group for the button group using the method add. So this is going to add a particular radio button to a particular group. And using these functions, I am going to implement now. And now when I am going to implement this my GUI, again the same flowchart, and I am just going to have 3 radio buttons, and so I am going to have 3 buttons over here. Similarly what I did for the checkboxes. And I am going to have a group. So this is the what you need to bring into the radio button. You need to put these buttons into a single group. That is where I am going to create the object for the class button group as bg and bg.add b1, b2 and b3. I am adding all these 3 radio buttons to the group called as bg, and the label what I want to display, I am putting over here. And whenever I'm going to click a radio button, so whenever I'm going to click radio button, I'm going to get the event, and I'm going to have through that event, I'm going to print a message, watch which button you have been exactly chosen, and I'm going to say ae.get action command. So this is going to print me what exactly I have been checked out with, or the text what I have been checked out with. And so when I'm going to click on this button, I'm going to print the message as your stream is ISC. And if I'm going to click on this radio button, this is automatically deselected and CSC is selected. I'm going to print the message as your stream is CSC. And this is how the swing buttons, all the 4 types of buttons is going to work. So this is all for this session. As a part 1, this is the end of this session. So we need to explore other components of the swing, so which I'll be doing in the next session or the next video. So to have the continued explanation of these components, so please check out the next video. Thank you.